Hey there folks, welcome back to another video. Today we're taking a look at the McFarlane Toys Gold Label Batman 89, Batman, and Batmobile. Now I gotta say, I haven't dabbled in McFarlane too much. I was not a big fan at first. I'm still not the biggest fan, but the only figure I had previously gotten was the McFarlane Pattinson, and I've gotten a few since, and I'll show you glimpses of that throughout the video. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Alright guys, so here's the Batman figure, the McFarlane Tim Burton Batman. This guy's pretty solid overall, if you're willing to customize him. He's a really good base if you're willing to customize him. I think largely he's okay. I don't think he's the best 89 Batman that we've gotten. There's a few different things that are a bit of an issue, such as the head sculpt. That's one of the biggest issues. For me, that's a non-issue because I immediately, as soon as I'm done with this video, I plan to start working on him, and I'm going to replace the entire head and neck with the Mezco one. So for me, that's a non-issue, but for a lot of other people, that's a problem. I don't want to completely destroy this, though, because I do kind of like the ability to have the head articulation. So I might try my hand at repainting this at some point, but for now, it's not going to be the main head, which also means I need to be able to keep this intact, because that has to come out. So I have to figure out a way to keep this intact, and maybe make all of this magnetic, since the Mezco one is magnetic too. So that could be something. And the cape is not great, but the base body does have some of the important details that it should. Like, it has the lining for the foam latex that would have been used on the screen used suit. You can see it right here. It's a little bit subtle. It would have benefited from being a little bit more pronounced, because I have seen some people review this figure and completely miss these details right here, but they are there. My biggest problem with the figure is the finish. The multiple finishes of the figure. You've got a huge assortment of plastics here. When it comes to their softness or hardness, you got really hard plastics for the thighs and the abdomen. Then you got slightly softer plastics for the shoulders, arms. The knees are a slightly different color, but it all varies. Like, the arms and shoulders all look like they're maybe one side of plastic. Then the torso is a completely other kind of plastic, at least in terms of the color. The crotch is the softest. The head and neck are a different level of softness. So it just results in this mix mash of finishes when it shouldn't look like that. And see, the problem is there's a great way to fix this. It doesn't matter what type of plastics you use for the entire figure, because obviously some things require softer plastic, especially if you're doing things like this where you need a diaper. But there's a great way to solve this, and a lot of companies like Hasbro and McFarlane don't utilize this, but it's a very effective method. It's called paint. You put paint on the figure. I mean, come on. We're talking about an all-black figure here. It wouldn't have been that expensive to just paint the figure black. And even, I mean, technically some areas should have a different finish, like the mask should be a little bit different from the suit, maybe the gloves and the boots, something like that. But largely, a lot of people would have been more pleased with the figure being all one color of black than have this different level of finish. Like some things are forgivable, like the head to the chest. But we're talking about right here where the body armor should be the same in continuity. In the world of the suit, this should be the same material, but it's not. It's not the same color. The knees are a different color. You could chalk that up to knee pads if you wanted to, but then the crotch and the legs are different colors, different finishes. So that's where my problems come in. I like the overall aesthetic of him, and I think if you were to customize him, paint him up, add some different pieces to him, he's a really solid looking figure. And he does offer you a 89 Batman that can do some decent posing. You do get a fabric cape. I'm personally not the biggest fan of this material, although I do like the scallops, and I think the overall drape looks really nice. It's just the material in general I'm not a fan of. It's very It's not very opaque, or it is opaque. I don't know. You can see through it. It's transparent, kind of. But also it's not cut right. The cape should come out from the corners of the bat emblem here. I mean, now, technically, technically you can adjust this, but I don't really recommend pulling on this fabric because it really doesn't like it. But you can pull this forward a little bit, but it doesn't come like that in the packaging, and it still doesn't really like it. You can get, I think it probably looks best if you line it up with these scallops right here, and then maybe do something like that. That's probably your best option. It's not very accurate, but it looks a lot better. You can have it drape forward, but then you get those little curls right there. So, I don't know. It's not super accurate. The material's not accurate, but I do like the way that it folds, but it can't really take any stress, and it's too see-through. So there's that. But I like the details of the bat emblem. I think those look pretty good. The details of the belt, the gold, the belt, or the emblem should be a little bit more yellow, which they did do in the 6-pack. I'm not sure if they kept the belt gold in the 6-pack, though. I can't remember off the top of my head, but the details for the gloves, all that looks pretty accurate. I'm seeing a lot of accurate details for the suit overall. The boots all look accurate. Again, you can see the lining of where the foam latex muscle suit or body armor would have been adhered to the neoprene undersuit. There's only a few details that I'm seeing that they've missed, which is I would have liked a more pronounced line for the armor ending. Also, the armor doesn't go around to the back like it should. You'll see that on the Mezco or the NECA. And then also, there's supposed to be some detail work on the back of the neck here. Some, like this kind of like slit area with these lines going through it. But then again, the whole shape of the cowl is just incorrect. The thickness of the neck, the transition of the neck and head. And we've seen companies do a 2-piece head that's supposed to replicate a 1-piece mask, and they've done it pretty seamlessly. I've seen it before. I mean, the Batfleck figure that just came out does a better job of it than this. So I'm not a fan of that. And then also the collarbone should be way more pronounced. These scallops should be a little bit more pointy. I can understand why they wouldn't do that, but they should, well, actually no, because they made these extremely pointy, and they're pretty stiff for the most part. So yeah, we should be seeing that with the scallops here and the ears. So it's just a lot of details that aren't right. The collarbone and the neck muscles should be more pronounced. There should be a smoother transition throughout here. I'm fine with it being a articulated head, but there's a way to do it to make it look more accurate. I prefer the 1-piece, but I'm okay with this if it's done properly, and in this case it wasn't. The oval here should have a black ring around it, and yeah. But I think a lot of this figure's problems could have been solved with some paint, really. I mean, really the people's two biggest complaints is the head. I mean, that's probably the only thing I've seen people complain about this figure for is the head, and then probably the lack of accessories. But for me, it's the head and the finish. Just add some paint. So yeah, there's that. We're already 8 minutes in though, so I'm gonna go ahead and go through the articulation real quick. We haven't even looked at the Batmobile, but you got a double ball peg for the heads. You can get them to look up pretty decently. Down, of course, you get a swivel and some nice rotation or some nice tilt there. I like that. You got a ball joint in the shoulder, and then plus the hinge, which all that combined allows you to lift the arms up that far. Of course, you get a full rotation, get some shifting any direction that you want. You can drop the shoulders if you want to, which is pretty cool. I like that. One of the things I actually do really like about McFarlane, because it offers up some options. Bicep swivel, double jointed elbows. You get a ball joint here, ball joint in the waist and the diaphragm joint, so that allows you to look back this far, look forward this far. Your legs go all the way out if you want them to. Be careful with the rubber diaper. Your legs can kick forward if you push them that far. They can kick back that far. not really any sort of thigh swivel. That would be an instance where you'd want to cut out some of the butt cheek and get the leg to come out a little bit further. Double jointed knees work very well. And then you get a ball joint for the ankle, so that lets you do pretty much anything you want. You go down, go up pretty far for having that there, and you get some toe articulation. If you want this guy doing some freaking saucy side kicks, you can definitely get that going. But I have some plans for this guy. I'm going to give him the Mezco head. I'm going to repaint him. I also plan on removing the hands and shaving down the wrist joint to make it a lot thinner to maybe get the Mezco hands to fit on here. They're a little bit smaller in scale, but I think if I want to use the accessories, so I think if the accessories are in his hand, it will make it less obvious that the hands are smaller because there's going to be a bigger object in his hand. So I'm going to do that. And then also maybe once I shave the peg down, put some hot glue in the fists and then push it onto the joint to close up the wrist hole, to make the wrist, the peg hole smaller on the fists. So these fists can still fit on there. So that way I have all the accessories can kind of be universal. And I have some other ideas here and there, but I'm not going to talk about them quite yet. I'm going to leave them up for the eventual video that this guy will get. So, with all that being said, let's move on to the Batmobile. Now, I'm not going to go too crazy in depth with this because there's a lot of other guys who have already done a video on it, and they've done a spectacular job. I largely just want to get a video out kind of sort of quickly, just so I can go ahead and start working on it, because what I want to bring to the table is my own custom version of this, which a lot of people have done, in fairness, too, as well. But that's sort of where I strive, is my uniqueness that I bring in terms of my customs, as opposed to my overall reviews. There's a lot of other guys who've been doing it for longer. So if you want to see a more detailed look at this, there are other videos. However, I just kind of want to go over the overall aesthetic and talk about some of the things that are probably not perfect on this. This is their second release, and they definitely use the same mold as the first one. But there's a few things that they could have done here to make it a little bit more accurate. Just to go over them slightly. For an example, this whole area, this whole rounded area should be higher than the sides. There's not really any way I can fix that. The missile here should be a little bit more, should be a little bit thinner and longer. It appears if you look at some of the images, and the cockpit here, the kind of hood here should be squatter, a little bit squattier and wider. And then also this piece, based on the images that I'm looking at, it could be the angle, but I'm pretty certain it's not. This piece here, this should be shorter, but then this here should actually stick up past the ears. So the ears should be a little bit more shallow back here, or the wings, not the ears. So yeah, there's just some details that aren't overall perfect, and the whole Batmobile should be slightly wider because it should accommodate 2 seats instead of 1. So those are some of the things. Again, just to go over them again, this should be shorter. This should be the tallest point of the Batmobile, with the wings being a little bit squattier, going down just a little bit more. Overall, Batmobile should be wider. This area should be raised up a little bit in conjunction with this. And then also, these areas here should all be rounded off, which I can personally do that myself, although it might become an issue when you get over to this seam here. And then all of it would have to be done by hand, so it would be pretty hard to get that universal, but we'll find out how that works. But yeah, and also this whole area should kind of overhang slightly because it's rounder. It should overhang over the headlights just a little bit. From the quick pictures that I looked at, those are some of the inaccuracies that I see. And one of the big problems with the original release was the different color in the hood piece here. Now they've done a matte finish this time, and that has helped extremely. I haven't seen the other one in person, but that does help extremely. But this is still a different color. However, when I was watching videos of this before I purchased it, or at least when I was waiting for it, I didn't notice the color difference on this one, but it is still there, just to let you know. It's not super obvious. I'm not entirely sure why they weren't able to get a color match going here. Obviously, this has to be paint because it's molded in translucent plastic. So again, I would imagine a way to fix that would be to just paint the whole figure, or paint the whole piece. So yeah, like you can see the whole inside of this is glossy. So that's just that translucent plastic, and it's painted on the opposite side. So, I mean, if you wanted these things to be color matched, I would imagine you'd just paint the whole thing. But they didn't. Some of the details are different from the previous version, such as the bat logos being silver this time and the actual rims being silver. These details here are silver, and then the rest of it is just molded in this kind of satiny matte finish black. I didn't think I was going to have to paint the whole thing. I thought I was just going to be doing some detail work, but overall I have realized that I'm going to have to paint this whole thing because there is a lot of I guess you'd call it marbling. I don't know if it's technically the same thing as like marbling you'd see on like an Iron Man figure. It does kind of look like it though, so I'm going to assume that's considered marbling. So yeah, this whole thing is going to need a whole paint base, a base coat. I don't know, I can't talk. I never can. What do you expect? Anyway, they give you some rubber tires here, which is pretty cool. The only thing I really have a problem with is the lack of headlights, like actual like detailed headlights. Like literally this could have just been a sticker, and I think that's better than 6 pieces being molded in different colors. Like I would rather this just be black and then have a sticker on it. Like honestly. I would prefer like actual like translucent pieces with like maybe LED lights in them. I understand that raises the price, but a sticker doesn't. If anything, a sticker would have been cheaper. They mold this in black and then put a sticker on it. I would imagine that's cheaper. Well, you have to design a sticker, I guess. I don't know. But it would look better. I would rather pay the extra $5 that would cost to put a sticker on there than just have these pieces here. Because there's not really anything you can do with this. If you want to have light up features, then you'd have to completely remove these pieces, get some translucent plastic, and then put LEDs in there. But that still doesn't look like a car headlight in terms of like when it's off or whatever. So I'm not entirely sure all the ways that you can go around that or go about doing that. I'd have to investigate myself just to see. But another thing that I plan on doing, I don't know how I'm going to get there, but if you've watched any videos or you know anything about the original Batmobile from the '89 film and Returns, it had this special paint that it would shift in certain lighting. It had the ability to look black, blue, and purple in whatever lighting you were looking at. It's very similar to the Green Goblin suit that Willem Dafoe had in the 2002 Spider-Man film, where in certain lighting that would shift to like a purple hue. This car had the ability to do that. I have an idea on how I'm going to achieve that artificially, but like I don't have the ability to get the I don't have the ability to get the actual paint, but I do have a pretty good idea. And also one thing I'm gonna have to struggle with is my like I want this to be largely accurate in the way it's painted, but it's gonna be a struggle now going through and adding all the fine little dry brushing details and make it look like scratched metal and some mud and dirt, because I largely want this to be kind of pristine the way it was in the movie, but at the same time I would like it to look kind of beat up and dirty. Add some nice dry brushing throughout all these details. So I'm gonna have to find a nice balance between what it looks like in the film and what my own personal tastes are. But yeah, guys, let's get a look at the back here. I don't have a whole lot of space here, but like if you think about the movie, this looks accurate. You know what I'm saying? Like that looks pretty solid. If you're thinking about scenes from the movie, this looks accurate. You look at the bottom. I've seen somebody mention how this might be the piece that comes out and then turns the whole Batmobile. I completely forgot about that. I seen a review and they showed that and I thought it was pretty cool, but I completely forgot about that little turntable that it had underneath it. But largely it's pretty basic under here. Not as basic as I would have expected, which is pretty cool. There's some detail in there. But yeah, there's the front. You think about it. You think about the scene where he's moving, or he's bringing Vicky Vale to the Batmobile. Or yeah, he's bringing Vicky Vale to the Batcave. I mean, that looks like it largely. If you investigate it further, it's not perfectly accurate. But I mean, come on. Largely, that's pretty solid right there. So, yeah. Like I said, there's a lot of other videos that you can watch to go a little bit more in depth. Me, I'm just bringing my own little taste to it, some of the things that I plan on doing to it. It's almost like a preview video of what I'm going to end up doing to it with my customization. So, I would put the Mezco here just to see what it looks like, but I haven't done that for myself yet. I'm waiting until the vehicle's all painted. Then I get my Mezco Batman in front of it. It will be legendary, and there will be a video out for it. But if you guys enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe, notification bell. All of that would be greatly appreciated if you decide to do so. And stay tuned for the custom. Stay tuned for the other videos. I got some newly announced figures that have just, hit the interwebs. We got to take a look at those. Hot Toys, Mafex, SH Figure Arts, Marvel Legends, all that. Comic-Con's going on right now, so there's a lot of stuff's being announced. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for the customs. I got a lot of stuff that I'm working on right now. And of course, until next time, true believers.